During their summer vacation, Wiley and his family decided to gather at his uncle's house, which happened to be located near the picturesque beach. They had already spent quality time with various relatives, engaging in thrilling activities like surfing, swimming, and playing volleyball on the sandy shores. As the sun began to set, signaling the end of an eventful day, they retreated to their uncle's house to rest for the night. The family gathered around a grand round table for a delightful dinner, and Wiley found himself seated next to his uncle. It was then that his eyes caught sight of a peculiar picture of a doll hanging in the dining room, piquing his curiosity. Unable to contain his inquisitiveness, Wiley turned to his uncle and inquired about the mysterious artwork. His uncle chuckled, amused by Wiley's fascination, and revealed that the picture belonged to his cousin Carissa. He further explained that Carissa had a peculiar habit of conversing with the doll when no one was watching, making it off limits for anyone to touch. Wiley's intrigue grew, and he couldn't help but be captivated by the enigmatic allure of the doll's portrait. Wiley couldn't help but be intrigued by the peculiar choice of hanging a doll picture in the hallway. It seemed there was more to it than what met the eye, and he was determined to uncover the mystery. After dinner, he mustered up the courage to approach his cousin Carissa and inquire about the picture. However, to his surprise, Carissa's reaction was far from what he had anticipated. She became visibly angry and refused to discuss the matter, leaving Wiley bewildered. It was clear that there was something hidden beneath the surface, and Wiley's curiosity only grew stronger. Determined to unravel the enigma, he decided to bide his time and wait until everyone was fast asleep. As the night grew darker, Wiley stayed awake, patiently waiting for the opportune moment. Finally, when the house was shrouded in silence, he cautiously crept out of his room and positioned himself near the dining room door. Faint whispers emanated from within, hinting at the secrets that lay concealed. Quietly and cautiously, Wiley stealthily entered the dining room and concealed himself behind the drapes. Peeking out, he was astonished by what he saw. His cousin Carissa was conversing in front of the doll picture. Initially dismissing it as a child's play, Wiley observed as Carissa narrated her day to the doll. Just as he was about to leave, a deep, masculine voice filled the room. Willie's ears widened as he realized the voice was coming from the picture itself. Shocked, he pondered whether his uncle was aware of this peculiar occurrence. Despite his initial intention to leave, Wiley felt compelled to inform his uncle about the mysterious talking doll picture. With a sense of urgency, he hurried to find his uncle and share what he had witnessed. Wiley excitedly shared with his uncle the story of the talking picture, but his uncle was skeptical at first. Despite his doubts, his uncle decided to investigate further and accompanied Wiley to the dining room where the picture was. Unfortunately, when they arrived, Carissa had already left, and the picture appeared lifeless. Undeterred, Wiley insisted that they wait for Carissa to return the next night and talk to the picture. That night they all hid behind the drapes and witnessed Carissa conversing with the picture. To their shock, a second voice responded, and Wiley's uncle realized they were dealing with a spirit. Disturbed by the revelation, Wiley's uncle took matters into his own hands and disposed of the picture in the sea the following morning. Carissa mourned its loss for a while, but eventually moved on from it completely. It was the summer holidays, and the anticipation of a thrilling adventure hung in the air. Joshua and his buddies had just completed their high school journey, and the time had come for them to embark on different paths, heading off to various colleges across the country. However, before bidding farewell, the boys made a pact to create one final memory together. With the blessings of their parents, they set off on a delightful picnic to a charming little island nearby. Equipped with 4 small boats and a handful of nets, they aimed to test their luck at catching some fish. The boys spent the entire day bobbing along on their boats, sharing stories and laughter that echoed across the tranquil waters. As the sun began its descent, casting a golden glow upon the horizon, they realized that their fishing expedition had yielded no results. Undeterred, Joshua took charge, flicking on the oil lamp on his boat. Adjusting his pink cap with determination, he rallied his friends, declaring, "Let's not give up just yet. We'll catch some fish before we call it a day." With a unanimous nod, the group sprang into action, each one diligently casting their nets into the water, hoping for a stroke of luck. As Joshua gazed up at the sky, he noticed the vibrant streaks of pink slowly fading away. The darkness was creeping in, signaling the end of the day. Satisfied with his successful fishing trip, Joshua carefully pulled up his net, revealing a bountiful catch. With a sense of accomplishment, he dumped the fish onto the deck. Turning towards his friends, Joshua's voice echoed through the air, urging them to start packing up and return to the safety of the shore. However, just as he spoke, an eerie sensation sent shivers down Joshua's spine. The atmosphere grew colder, and faint crunching noises reached his ears. In a rush, Joshua spun around, only to be met with a bone-chilling sight. Standing on the opposite end of the boat, a terrifying figure emerged. Clad in a disheveled white robe, the man's blood-red eyes pierced through Joshua, while his wide grin revealed a set of unnaturally white teeth. Joshua trembled in fear, unable to comprehend how this mysterious man had materialized out of thin air. The expression on the man's face didn't sit well with Joshua. How on earth did he manage to find his way onto Joshua's boat? As the dim light from his oil lamp flickered in the frigid air, Joshua couldn't shake the feeling that this stranger was about to pounce on him. Desperately scanning the surroundings for his friend, Joshua found himself alone. The man continued to stare at him, his eyes fixed and unblinking. Suddenly, he grabbed a fish and took a monstrous bite, the crunching sound echoing eerily. Joshua couldn't help but notice the seaweed and slime that covered the man's menacing face, as well as his filthy, tattered white robe. What kind of attire is that? Joshua wondered. To make matters worse, a repugnant odor emanated from the man's body, overwhelming Joshua's senses. Unable to bear the stench any longer, he began to retch uncontrollably. As he tried to stand up, the world spun around him, and before he knew it, he collapsed onto the deck, struggling for breath. As Joshua regained consciousness, he found himself in a state of confusion, unable to recall his whereabouts or the events that had transpired. However, his friends gently reassured him that he was at home, urging him to wake up from his dazed state. Suddenly, like a bolt of lightning, his memory flooded back to him. Joshua's mother, concerned about his high fever, attentively monitored his temperature, confirming his ailment. Consequently, Joshua remained confined to his bed for an additional 3 days, gradually recuperating from his illness. Once his strength began to return, Joshua eagerly recounted his extraordinary experience to his friends. They revealed that upon witnessing his fall, they promptly rowed towards his boat to investigate the cause. Curiosity piqued, Joshua inquired about a mysterious figure he had seen wearing a long white robe. Surprisingly, his friend responded that there was no such person aboard the boat. However, they did notice partially consumed fish, leading them to speculate whether Joshua had consumed them and subsequently fallen ill. Overwhelmed by this revelation, Joshua made the decision to never venture out for fishing again, forever haunted by the perplexing incident. At last, the summer break had arrived. Elliot was thrilled to have his good friend Sybil by his side to enjoy the sunny, lively days ahead. Living next door to each other and attending the same school, they were inseparable. The first morning of the vacation greeted them with a brilliant white light. Elliot wasted no time, quickly finishing his breakfast before heading out to meet Sybil. To his surprise, Sybil was already in the garden, ready to kick off the day with some outdoor fun. They engaged in a game of catch and cook under the scorching sun until the heat became unbearable, prompting them to move their play indoors. Elliot suggested a round of hide and seek, with Sybil being the first to hide. As Elliot began to count, Sybil darted off to find a secluded spot. As Sybil scurried to a corner, a mysterious noise caught her attention. Curious, she followed the sound and stumbled upon an open door leading to a dark staircase. Intrigued by the hidden passage, Sybil decided it would be the perfect hiding spot. Without hesitation, she ventured into the unknown, eager to explore the secret place she had discovered. The moment Sybil descended into the basement, her heart began to race. Despite leaving the door ajar, she found herself unable to see her own hands, even when they were right in front of her face. The musty odor of the basement lingered in the air, occasionally accompanied by a chilling sensation that sent shivers down her spine. As she stood there, Sybil couldn't help but think that perhaps no one ventured into this part of the house. A sudden wave of fear washed over Sybil, making her contemplate retreating. Just then, a gust of cold wind surrounded her, followed by the sound of the door above slamming shut on its own. Panic set in, prompting Sybil to scramble up the stairs towards the door. To her relief, it was indeed closed. From the other side, she could faintly hear Elliot calling out for her. "Sybil, where are you?" Elliot's voice echoed through the basement, growing louder with each call. Attempting to respond, Sybil found her voice caught in her throat, only managing to let out a terrified croak. Desperate to escape, she tugged at the door, but it remained stubbornly shut, trapping her inside with her fears. Elliot scoured every inch of the house for Sybil, but she was nowhere to be found. He was puzzled as he knew Sybil wouldn't have gone into the basement with the door closed. Feeling anxious and exhausted, Elliot sought his parents' help, explaining the situation of their game of hide-and-seek and Sybil's disappearance. Together, Elliot and his parents meticulously searched the entire house, even venturing into the basement, but to no avail. It seemed as if Sybil had mysteriously vanished, without a trace. Desperate, Elliot's parents contacted Sybil's family to report the unsettling disappearance. Sybil's family wasted no time and involved the police, who swarmed Elliot's home in search of the missing girl. Despite the thorough search efforts, there was no sign of Sybil anywhere, leaving Elliot heartbroken and worried. As days passed, the realization sank in that Sybil might not return in time for the new school year, casting a shadow of sadness over Elliot's thoughts. Elliot dressed in his school uniform and meticulously combed his hair, his mind heavy with thoughts of his dear friend Sybil, who was no longer by his side. Suddenly, his ears perked up, catching a faint sound that made his heart skip a beat. Without a moment's hesitation, Elliot bolted out of the room, following the direction of the mysterious noise until he found himself in the basement. There, he could distinctly hear the anguished cries of a young girl. "Mother, father!" he called out urgently. The entire family rushed to the basement, their eyes widening in shock as they spotted a crumpled figure lying at the bottom of the stairs. "Elliot!" the figure cried out weakly. It was Sybil. Overwhelmed with relief and concern, Elliot's father gently inquired, "How did you end up here, my dear?" Sybil's voice trembled as she recounted her harrowing experience. "It was all so strange," she began. "I was hiding here when I suddenly saw a ghostly white hand reaching out towards me. The fear was too much, and I fainted. When I regained consciousness, I found myself in an unfamiliar land, desperately calling for help but receiving no response. And then, inexplicably, I was back here again." Elliot's curiosity piqued. He asked, "Who took you and where did they take you?" Sadly, Sybil could only shake her head, her eyes filled with confusion and uncertainty. The answers remained elusive,